We're back. Let's settle in our comfy spot, our favorite reading corner. Put your headphones in if you are on the road trying to get somewhere. If you're an AP student who's painting, if you're a draftsman in Australia or New Zealand and you're working, if you are in India just about to go to sleep, get settled in and let's read Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Hey, Siddharth, you still have moderation, like moderator's control, so be responsible. Chapter 5, page 14. Within a short walk of Longbourn lived a family with whom the Bennets were particularly intimate. Means not intimate like we talk now, but close friends. Sir William Lucas had been formerly in trade to Meryton, where he made a tolerable fortune, and risen to the honor of knighthood by an address to the king during his mayoralty. The distinction had perhaps been felt too strongly. It had given him a disgust to his business and to his residence in a small market town, and quitting them both, he had removed with his family to a house about a mile from Meryton, denominated from that period Lucas Lodge, where he could think with pleasure of his own importance and, unshackled by business, occupy himself solely in being civil to the world. Unshackled by business, like not worried about business. Hey, Venus. Well, I thought you had been. You only missed one, I think, Venus. That's it. So unshackled by business. Like I've been very shackled by business the last few days. For though elated by his rank, it did not render him supercilious. On the contrary, he was all attention to everybody. By nature inoffensive, friendly, and obliging, his presentation at St. James's had made him courteous. Lady Lucas was a very good kind of woman, not too clever to be a valuable neighbor to Mrs. Bennet. They had several children. The eldest of them, a sensible, intelligent young woman, about 27, was Elizabeth's intimate friend, so her best friend. That the Miss Lucases and the Miss Bennets should meet to talk over a ball was absolutely necessary. And the morning after the assembly brought the former to Longbourn to hear and to communicate. You began the evening very well, Charlotte, said Miss Bennet with civil self-command to Miss Lucas. You were Mr. Bingley's first choice. Yes, but he seemed to like his second better. Oh, you mean Jane. I suppose because he danced with her twice. To be sure, that did seem as if he admired her. Indeed, I rather believe he did. I heard something about it, but I hardly know what. Something about Mr. Robinson. Hello, Haley. Let's see what you say. I got to bring y'all close to read. Haley B says, hey there, I've been watching a lot of your videos. Well, thanks. I hope you like them. And I enjoy the literature lessons you give. Oh, I try. I don't do a lot of homework. I just kind of ramble. I'm glad I've finally been able to catch a lot. Me too. I'm glad you're here, Haley. Tell me what books you've been reading. Perhaps you mean what I overheard between him and Mr. Robinson. Did not I mention it to you? Mr. Robinson's asking him how he liked our Meryton assemblies and whether he did not think there was a great many pretty women in the room, and which he thought the prettiest, and his answering immediately to the last question, oh, the eldest, Miss Bennet, beyond a doubt. There cannot be two opinions on that point. Upon my word. Well, that was very decided indeed. That does seem as if, but however, it may all come to nothing, you know. My overhearings were more to the purpose than yours, Eliza, said Charlotte. Mr. Darcy is not so well worth listening to as his friend, is he? Poor Eliza. Be only just tolerable. Discord is popping off. I sent another link, Siddharth, for that. And Lee Ambrose, you got to catch a live. I got to catch you. Welcome, Lee. Siddharth is my host. I appreciate you being here, Siddharth. There is a bug in my house, and it's making me crazy. What are you trying to catch up on, Lee Ambrose? Are you trying to read Pride and Prejudice? You have to stop and say it like that every time. You can't just be Pride and Prejudice. It's just be Pride and Prejudice. Very British. Very British. Sorry for my British viewers. That probably was not very British. Where am I? Intolerable. I beg you would not put it into Lizzie's head to be vexed, like irritated by his ill treatment, for he is such a disagreeable man that it would be quite a misfortune to be liked by him. Mrs. Long told me last night that he sat close to her for half an hour without once opening his lips. Are you quite sure, ma'am? Is not there a little mistake? Said Jane. I certainly saw Mr. Darcy speaking to her. Aye, because she asked him at last how he liked Netherfield, and he could not help answering her. But she said he seemed very angry at being spoken to. Miss Bingley told me, said Jane, that he never speaks much, unless among his intimate acquaintance. With them, he's remarkably agreeable. I do not believe a word of it, my dear. If he had been so very agreeable, he would have talked to Mrs. Long. But I can guess how it was. Everybody says that he is ate up with pride, and I dare say he had heard somehow that Mrs. Long does not keep a carriage and had come to the ball in a hack chaise. So there's some class system there of the difference of being in a hack chaise, I think that might be the open one. I don't know, and a carriage like the Cinderella one. I don't know. We'd have to do some research on that. I'm not saying, Siddharth, you should, but maybe images of a hack a hack chaise versus a carriage magically bling. If I really was a good editor, I would go bling. And right now there would be a carriage and a hack chaise, but I'm not an editor. So y'all are just looking at me going bling. His pride, said Miss Lucas, does not offend me so much as pride often does, because there is an excuse for it. One cannot wonder that so very fine a young man with family, fortune, everything in his favor should think highly of himself. If I may so express it, he has a right to be proud. That's very true, replied Elizabeth. I could easily forgive his pride if he had not mortified mine. It's okay to be proud, but you don't have to be rude. And Siddharth, you missed chapter 3. There's the link. Did you put it in, Siddharth? I don't see it. Frankenstein. I'm trying to catch up with everybody's comments. Ambrose, I haven't been able to catch up, but I'll stay and watch. Haley said, after watching your videos on Frankenstein, I did that with my class. I didn't read that alone. And reading along, it's now one of my favorite books. Great. I really like Frankenstein. But you'll hear me talk about it. It's kind of wordy, and there's parts in there that just aren't necessary. I'm the great writer that I am. I'm editing it. Yes, I missed the video on chapter 3. There's the link. Where's the link? I've always tried to read Frankenstein, and I will at some point. It's a good one. I always just stop at the yeah, that's the problem. The letters in the beginning. All of it sets it up, but the story is really good. I really love how the author wrote this book, the way it's written. Pride and Prejudice, you mean? There's the link. Crescent Ruby. Are we talking about Pride and Prejudice now or Frankenstein still? Join the link, please. Come to Discord. I chat and bore you with dull things about my life. And we talk about education. We talk about testing. And hopefully I give pointers on how to do well in school, because I am best tutor friend. Hey, Booberim. Frankenstein is sort of wordy, but I love you. Yeah, I do like Frankenstein. Pride and Prejudice for my comment. Thanks, Venus, for clarifying. I get lost in the chat, and I'm not supposed to chat with y'all when I'm reading. But we're on chapter 5, almost. If I were as rich as Mr. Darcy, cried a young Lucas who came with his sisters, I should not care how proud I was. I would keep a pack of foxhounds and drink a bottle of wine every day. Notice that grammatical structure, the conditional if I were as rich, not if I was as rich, if I were as rich. If I were a rich man, if I were a boy. That's good for SAT, because it's going to be, that's one of those that they'll have on the test, because it's an exception. So that's the conditional if. Then you would drink a great deal more than you ought, said Mrs. Bennet, and if I were to see you at it, I should take away your bottle directly. The boy protested that she should not. She continued to declare that she would, and the argument ended only with the visit. So they stopped arguing once they left. Hey, Sid. You're just greeting. GT Music says, I'm watching your YouTube videos, reading A Thousand Splendid Suns, which is really one of my big favorites. Haley, I also love Jane Austen's writing style. I loved all the Victorians. I love this period of writing. It's wordy and it's flowery, and I get criticized at work all the time because I do a lot of writing for work, and they're writing like guidance documents and things that help others, educators, do best practices, and they're like, you're just too wordy. And I'm like, it's all that Victorian literature I read as a young woman. It formed my writing style. Wouldn't change a thing to A Thousand Splendid Suns. The book is perfect. Oh, I would change. I mean, I know you're right, but I would like Miriam to see, her family, like that they got safe and that they got to grow old together. I would have liked Miriam to get justice. Siddharth, you've always got some little point for us. Jane Austen wrote 6 books, and I heard they're all good. I've not read them all, but the ones I have read are all good. Sense and Sensibility, Emma. I'm not going to remember the rest. I really want to read Wuthering Heights again. Chapter, Roman numeral VI, which is, what is Roman numeral VI? And if you answer in the future in the comments below, say Roman numeral VI equals GT Music 6. Good job. Most of my students from your generation never know Roman numerals. So yay. Did you Google it? Don't cheat. The ladies of Longbourn soon waited on those of Netherfield. The visit was returned in due form. Miss Bennet's pleasing manners grew on the goodwill of Mrs. Hurst and Miss Bingley, and though the mother was found to be intolerable, the younger sisters not worth speaking to, a wish of being better acquainted with them was expressed towards the 2 eldest. By Jane, this attention was received with the greatest pleasure, but Elizabeth's still superciliousness in their treatment of everybody, hardly accepting even her sister, could not like them, though their kindness to Jane, such as it was, had a value as arising in all probability from the influence of their brother's admiration. So all of that is saying these snooty girls like Jane and Elizabeth, the 2 eldest sisters. They don't like Mrs. Bennet. She's a bitty. I don't know if she's like a nosy, messy. No, I think that's outdated now. Y'all help me. What's your word for that? She's in everybody's business. She's gossipy, and it used to be messy. She's messy. So they only like the 2 eldest, and Elizabeth thinks it's mainly they like Jane because their brother, who they adore, likes Jane. Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Northanger Abbey I've not read. Persuasion I have read. Mansfield Park I have not read. Answer 2. Okay, GT, I trust you. You knew it. This is the link to Discord. You have to advertise it. That's why you are a moderator. She's nosy. She's gossipy. Like, she wants to talk about everybody. She's critical. She's whiny and complaining. Her whole world is about her. She's self-centered. So they just don't like her, and they don't like her for a reason. So a chatterbox. Yeah, she is a chatterbox too. So I had to get a hardback book, and it's heavy to read. It's heavy. I'm whiny too. I'm like Mrs. Bennet. Trying to find where I am. It was generally evident whenever they met that he did admire her, and to her it was equally evident that Jane was yielding to the preference which she had begun to entertain for him from the first, and was a way to be very much in love. But she considered with pleasure that it was not unlikely to be discovered by the world in general, since Jane united with great strength of feeling, a composure of temper, and a uniform cheerfulness of manner which would guard her from the suspicions of the impertinent. She mentioned this to her friend, Miss Lucas. It may perhaps be pleasant, replied Charlotte, to be able to impose on the public in such a case, but it is sometimes a disadvantage to be so very guarded. If a woman conceals her affection with the same skill from the object of it, she may lose the opportunity of fixing him, and it will then be but poor consolation to believe the world equally in the dark. There is so much of gratitude or vanity in almost every attachment that it is not safe to leave any to itself. We can all begin freely. A slight preference is natural enough. but there are very few of us who have heart enough to be really in love without encouragement. So, what do you think? Do you agree that most of us, I kind of like you, but I'm not going to really make myself vulnerable to you until I know you like me back? Who's willing to invest to just like we would consider that stalkerish or psychotic? Who's really willing to feel the feel and just be all in with it without some certainty that the person likes you back? You kind of tiptoe into it. You make the text, but if you get left on unread, then you're like, we read so much into it, right? So that's what they're talking about. Pride and Prejudice by far. Siddhartha is my favorite. That's a good question. Probably either Emma or Pride and Prejudice. I did like Emma. I always wanted to have a daughter named Emma. I had 3 daughters and still didn't name any of them Emma. I had a grandmother, Emma. So basically, who is willing to make the first, right, Siddhartha, that's exactly right. Who's willing to reveal, I like you more than a friend? That's what this conversation is all about. Rhett Mashburn, live readings, by the way, just finished reading Their Eyes Were Watching God in 3 days. Listen, I tell people to listen on 1.5 times speed. I already have such a Southern drawl that it does take too long for me to say things. So I'm glad you did, Mashburn. Rhett, I shouldn't call you Mashburn, but as a teacher, I always call kids by their last name. So that's the connections, like on these out-of-date books where the language is very different. I always think it's interesting. Don't we still feel the same way? Are you willing to risk letting your feelings be known about somebody else if you're not sure if they like you back in return? So, those are the things you can connect to in books. What do you see where you go, oh, there's that humanity, that universal humanity that we still connect with no matter how out of date the book is? I think that's the fun part of literature. And I think that's what makes literature so, as one of the, great works of literature, when it touches on those themes. Shakespeare was fantastic at that. So Bingley likes your sister undoubtedly, but he may never do more than like her if she does not help him on. Like he needs some encouragement too. But she does help him on as much as her nature will allow. If I can perceive her regard for him, he must be a simpleton indeed not to discover it too. Remember, Eliza, that he does not know Jane's disposition as you do. You, Jane, you know your sister. You know she's putting out hints that she likes him. He doesn't know her. But if a woman is partial to a man and does not try to conceal it, he must find it out. Perhaps he must, if he sees enough of her. But though Bingley and Jane meet tolerably often, it is never for many hours together, and as they always see each other in large mixed parties, it is impossible that every moment should be employed in conversing together. Jane should therefore make the most of every half hour in which she can command his attention. When she's secure of him, there will be leisure for falling in love as much as she chooses. Your plan is a good one, replied Elizabeth, where nothing is in question but the desire of being well married. And if I were determined to get a rich husband, or any husband, I dare say I should adopt it. But these are not Jane's feelings. She's not acting by design. As yet, she cannot even be certain of the degree of her own regard, nor of its reasonableness. She's not trying to catch him or trap him. She's trying to figure out what her feelings are. Haley said, wait, what about Charlotte Bronte? Oh, Jane Eyre. That's such a good one. Haley said, I agree with you on still being able to relate to some concepts explored in these books, despite them being older. That's cool. I'm going to start reading Jane Eyre. Do you like it so far? Oh, come on Discord and we can talk. I can make a link about Jane Eyre and y'all can talk about it. It's really good so far. I already know the basic storyline due to how popular the book is, but it is amazing. Getting pulled into the characters is what I think is so great about these times. They're very character driven. There's not a lot of plot to most of these books, and you can kind of figure out what's going to happen from the very beginning. There's so much foreshadowing, but it's just getting to know those characters, finding out, understanding the things that make them, the histories in their life that makes them them. Like, why is Jane, what are we learning about Jane? That she's not just out to catch a man, that she's taking her time to decide if she really likes Bingley or not. She's not just a player. And so it's fun to see that evolve. I mean, you can pretty well guess that they're going to end up together. I'm not giving away any secrets. I'm saying you could guess it. But the intrigue is, What do we know about her that makes her so different from most of the women in that time that he's so drawn to her from the beginning? Victorian novels is that the whole book kind of feels like a journey. I love that, Siddharth. It does. That's what I was just talking about. It does feel like you're being pulled into what is the adventure they're on. Character driven. I like that about them. Me too, Haley. All right, let me keep reading. I should have brought my water closer. Not as you represent it. Had she merely dined with him, she might only have discovered whether he had a good appetite. But you must remember that 4 evenings have been also spent together, and 4 evenings may do a great deal. Yes, these 4 evenings have enabled them to ascertain that they both like 21 better than commerce. I think those are card games. But with respect to any other leading characteristic, I do not imagine that much has unfolded. Well, said Charlotte, I wish Jane success with all my heart. And if she were married to him tomorrow, I should think she may as good a chance of happiness as if she were studying his character for a 12-month. Happiness in marriage is entirely a matter of chance. Do you agree with that? We've got a pretty much 50% divorce rate. Is it just a matter of luck if you have a good marriage or not? If the dispositions of the parties are ever so well known to each other or ever so similar beforehand, it does not advance their felicity, happiness, in the least. They always continue to grow sufficiently unlike afterwards to have their share of vexation, like irritation. And it is better to know as little as possible of the defects of the person with whom you are to pass your life. You make me laugh, Charlotte, but it is not sound. You know it's not sound, it's not logical. And that you would never act in this way yourself. Occupied in observing Mr. Bingley's attentions to her sister, Elizabeth was far from suspecting that she was herself becoming the object of some interest in the eyes of his friend. Oh, there's a twist. Mr. Darcy had at first scarcely allowed her to be pretty. He had looked at her without admiration at the ball, and when they next met, he looked at her only to criticize. But no sooner had he made it clear to himself and his friends that she hardly had a good feature in her face than he began to find it was rendered uncommonly intelligent by the beautiful expression of her dark eyes. To this discovery succeeded others equally mortifying. Though he had detected with a critical eye more than one failure of perfect symmetry in her form, he was forced to acknowledge her figure to be light and pleasing. So he's looking at her very critically. And it's like, well, she doesn't have a perfect body. She doesn't have a perfect face, but I'm drawn to her. I'm attracted to her. So what do you think? I'm still asking, do you like Darcy? Do you hate Darcy? Undead Ceiling. Hey, Matilda. I missed people. Coffee. Oh, a whole bunch of people jumped in while I was reading that. Coffee Kaufman. I'm Matilda. I'm watching your Kite Runner series right now. I'm on chapter 13. I'm glad to have found you too, Matilda. Thank you, Siddharth, for greeting, because I'm sometimes reading and I can't. Keep plugging Discord for us, Siddharth. So pretentious, yes. But what does it begin to tell you that maybe he's drawn to Elizabeth, not just for her looks, but there's something about her character that draws her to him? I'm reading Murder on the Orient. Hey, Undead Ceiling. Murder on the Orient Express. I'm glad I'm helping you. Hi, Sonia. Welcome, all you people. I love that readers are joining in. So what do we think about Darcy now that he's starting to get drawn to her, not because of just her looks? Reminds me a little of Romeo and Juliet, where Romeo just fell for Juliet because of her looks, right? It's about, do you think there's that instant chemistry that makes you think, it may not be how you look, but there's something about you that just makes me really connect with you? Of this, she was perfectly unaware. No, I need to say, though he had detected with a critical eye, I already read that, and in spite of his asserting that her manners were not those of the fashionable world, she's not city, he was caught by their easy playfulness. Of this, she was perfectly unaware. To her, he was the only man who made himself agreeable to nowhere and who had not thought her handsome enough to dance with. So she's still hurt by him. He began to wish to know more of her, and as a step towards conversing with her himself, attended to her conversation, he listened to her talking to others. His doing so drew her notice. It was at Sir William Lucas's, where a large party was assembled. What What does Mr. Darcy mean, she said to Charlotte, by listening to my conversation with Colonel Forster? That's a question which Mr. Darcy only can answer. But if he doesn't anymore, I shall certainly let him know that I see what he's about. He has a very satirical eye, and if I do not begin by being impertinent myself, I shall soon grow afraid of him. So I'm going to go the best defense is a good offense. I'm going to go on attack. On his approaching them soon afterwards, though without seeming to have any intention of speaking, Miss Lucas defied her friend to mention such a subject to him, which immediately provoking Elizabeth to do it, she turned to him and said, did you not think, Mr. Darcy, that I expressed myself uncommonly well just now when I was teasing Colonel Foster to give us a ball at Meryton? With great energy, but it is a subject which always makes a lady energetic. You are severe on this. It will be her turn soon to be teased, said Miss Lucas. I'm going to open the instrument, Eliza, and you know what follows. You're a very strange creature by way of a friend, always wanting me to play and sing before anybody and everybody. If my vanity had taken a musical turn, you would have been invaluable. But as it is, I would really rather not sit down before those who must be in the habit of hearing the very best performers. On Miss Lucas's persevering, however, she added, very well. If it must be so, it must. And gravely glancing at Mr. Darcy, there's a fine old saying which everybody here is of course familiar with. Keep your breath to cool your porridge, and I shall keep mine to swell my song. You know that old saying, right? Siddharth, hey Sonia. I finished reading Macbeth, one of my favorite Shakespeare's. Oh, by the way, on your previous video, it says it was chapter 4. I'm pretty sure that we were on chapter 4 last time. 2, 3. Oh, maybe it was 3. I'll have to check that, Siddharth, and correct it. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, I thought I would read 4 and more, but I only read 4, so I need to clean it up. Now I lost my place again. Because I was laughing about that well-known saying, which I had never heard before, the porridge. Her performance was pleasing, though by no means capital. She sang okay. She wasn't great, but she was okay. After a song or two, and before she could reply to the entreaties of several that she would sing again, she was eagerly succeeded at the instrument by her sister Mary, who, having, in consequence of being the only plain one in the family, worked hard for knowledge and accomplishments, was always impatient for display. So Mary is the normal-looking one. So to compensate for not being beautiful, she's tried to become intelligent and talented. Mary had neither genius nor taste, and though vanity had given her application, she worked hard. It had given her likewise a pedantic air and conceited manner, which would have injured a higher degree of excellence than she had reached. Elizabeth, easy and unaffected, had been listened to with much more pleasure, though not playing half so well, and Mary, at the end of a long concerto, was glad to purchase praise and gratitude by Scotch and Irish airs at the request of her younger sisters, who, with some of the Lucases and 2 or 3 officers, joined eagerly in dancing at one end of the room. Mr. Darcy stood near them in silent indignation at such a mode of passing the evening, to the exclusion of all conversation, and was too much engrossed by his own thoughts to perceive that Sir William Lucas was his neighbor. Still, till Sir William thus began. Shreya says, I used your videos reading Their Eyes Were Watching God and loved them. Great, I'm so glad. I just turned in a rhetorical analysis on it in AP Lang. Let me know how you do. Rhetorical analysis. It's been a long time since I've had to grade those. I haven't read Macbeth yet, but I definitely will. I love Romeo and Juliet, though I remember reading it in 9th grade in English class. It's typical to read it in 9th grade, but there's a lot more to it that, I mean, everybody just thinks Romeo's this great romantic, but I always thought, you know, he's a player. He just falls in and out of love. And I didn't think he was the best character out of all of them. Siddharth, I liked Hamlet. Hamlet's a good one. It is a good one. I didn't like teaching Hamlet because so many of my students got lost in Hamlet. It is still good. But Macbeth is my favorite character. And Lady Macbeth, ooh, I love her. So he's going to talk to this Sir William. And he says, what a charming amusement for young people this is, Mr. Darcy. There's nothing like dancing after all. I consider it as one of the first refinements of polished societies. Certainly, sir. And it has the advantage also of being a vogue, almost in vogue, like popular, amongst the less polished societies of the world. Isn't that true? Every savage can dance. Sir William only smiled. Your friend performs delightfully, he continued after a pause on seeing Bingley join the group. And I doubt not that you are an adept in the science yourself, Mr. Darcy. You saw me dance at Meryton, I believe, sir. Yes, indeed, and received no inconsiderable pleasure from the sight. Do you often dance at St. James's? Never, sir. Do you not think it would be a proper compliment to the place? It is a compliment which I never pay to any place if I can avoid it. You have a house in town, I conclude. Mr. Darcy bowed. I had once some thoughts of fixing in town myself, for I am fond of superior society. But I did not feel quite certain that the air of London would agree with Lady Lucas. He paused in hopes of an answer, but his companion was not disposed to make any. So Darcy doesn't want to make small talk or feed into egos. And Elizabeth at that instant moved towards them. He was struck with the notion of doing a very gallant thing and called out to her, My dear Miss Eliza, why are you not dancing, Mr. Darcy? Dancing. Mr. Darcy, you must allow me to present this young lady to you as a very desirable partner. You cannot refuse to dance, I'm sure, when so much beauty is before you. And taking her hand, he would have given it to Mr. Darcy, who, though extremely surprised, was not unwilling to receive it, when she instantly drew back and said with some discomposure to Sir William, Indeed, sir, I have not the least intention of dancing. I entreat you not to suppose that I move this way in order to beg for a partner. She's like offended, because she knows what Darcy thinks of her, or what she thought he thought of her, or what he used to think of her. Mr. Darcy, with grave propriety, requested to be allowed the honor of her hand, but in vain. Elizabeth was determined, nor did Sir William at all shake her purpose by his attempt at persuasion. You excel so much in the dance, Miss Eliza, that it's cruel to deny me the happiness of seeing you, and though this gentleman dislikes the amusement in general, he can have no objection, I'm sure, to oblige us for 1/2 hour. Mr. Darcy is all politeness, said Elizabeth, smiling. He is indeed, but considering the inducement, my dear Miss Eliza, we cannot wonder at his complaisance, for who would object to such a partner? Elizabeth looked archly and turned away. Her resistance had not injured her with the gentleman, and he was thinking of her with some complacency when thus accosted by Miss Bingley. I can guess the subject of your reverie, like your dream. I should imagine not. You are considering how insupportable it would be to pass many evenings in this manner, in such society, and indeed I am quite of your opinion. I was never more annoyed. The insipidity, and yet the noise. I just want you to know that as well read as I am, often there are words that I just can't say. So if you're in class and you're struggling at a word and somebody kind of tries to embarrass you, hold your head up and think, this tutor friend struggles with words all the time. She's not an idiot. Laugh at me. It's okay. I just laugh at myself. Insipidity. How do you say it? Somebody put it in phonics for me. Insipidity. Insipidity. Sometimes you just stare at a word, and no matter how you try, you can't get it. And yet the noise, the nothingness, and yet the self-importance of all these people. What would I give to hear your strictures on them? Your conjecture is totally wrong, I assure you. My mind was more agreeably engaged. She thinks he's there judging all of them. I assure you, my mind was more agreeably engaged. I've been meditating on the very great pleasure with a pair of fine eyes and the face a pretty woman can bestow. I was thinking about this pretty woman. Miss Bingley immediately fixed her eyes on his face and desired he would tell her what lady had the credit of inspiring such reflections. Mr. Darcy replied with great intrepidity. Insipidity, intrepidity. Can we change these words to stupidity? Miss Elizabeth Bennet. Miss Elizabeth Bennet? Repeated Miss Bingley. I'm all astonishment. Ooh, mean girl. How long has you been such a favorite? And pray, when am I to wish you joy? That's exactly the question which I expected you to ask. A lady's imagination is very rapid. It jumps from admiration to love, from love to matrimony in a moment. I knew you would be wishing me joy. Nay, if you are so serious about it, I shall consider the matter as absolutely settled. You will have a charming mother-in-law indeed, and of course she will always be at Pemberley with you. He listened to her with perfect indifference while she chose to entertain herself in this manner, and as his composure convinced her that all was safe, her wit flowed long. She's just biatch. You're gonna love this girl. When you look at the mother-in-law you'll get, because they think she's, insufferable, the mother, Mrs. Bennet. All right, Siddharth, let's see what you've got. What have I missed here in this conversation? But Romeo and Juliet is still good. Yes, when I think about it, I see your perspective on Romeo. He did fall for Juliet rather quickly. Of course, teenagers, and that's what we have to remember, that they were very young. Insipidity. Thank you, Siddharth. I'm the same way with words. Sometimes we just come across words that we're not familiar with. It takes time to learn. And it's getting them to come out of your mouth, to shape your mouth the way you want and hit the accent in the right syllable. I found an essay way to say it. Oh, an easy way. My glasses, sorry. Say it like insipidity. Insipidity. I can't do it. I don't know what it means, Mina. Jared McFoy, thank you for doing this. I love your channel since you read 1,000 Splendid Sons. So my number one most watched individual episode is the Crucible one. My most read book, if you put the whole book, where people really stayed with it all the way throughout, is Their Eyes Were Watching God. And I think the one I get the most comments about, that seems the most liked, and I don't have analytics on this, is 1,000 Splendid Sons. It's very interesting to me that Crucible is so well received. I can figure it out because I don't think it's a hard book, but when you get into the history of it and all the prose of it, I think that's why people are drawn to it, because it's heavy read. You have to really think as you read through it, and you have to know the historical context as you go through it. And then Their Eyes Were Watching God. It's the dialect so dang hard. But my favorite is hearing from you guys, whether it's DM or an email or comments. I just really live for that. I love hearing how you guys are doing, what you're learning, what you're interested in. I need to put a new poll up because I loved hearing what you were afraid of. So me, it's confrontation. I will do everything I can to avoid confrontation. So insipidity really helped me in understanding that text. Jared, I'm so glad. It really makes me happy to know that I help you. Starting Act 4 this weekend of The Crucible. Siddharth, how are you liking it? From those of you that are my AP students, and if you follow politics now, where do you see the parallels in, when Donald Trump talks so much about witch hunt when he was under investigation for the Russia impeachment? Haley, I should read The Crucible. I think every teenager should read The Crucible. You really look how mean girls are and how they're influenced by their group. It makes you aware that you lose your individual character. We as young girls long so much to be in a group and to be guys. I don't think maybe on football teams or sports teams, you'd have to weigh in for that for me. But girls, being a female and having been a young girl, there's this longing to belong, even if it's a group of girls you don't have anything in common with. Even like me, I was not a fashion plate, and you can see I'm kind of tacky in my taste. I love dangly, sparkly things. So I never was that cool kid. But boy, you long to be in that group. But then you lose your independent voice and your identity, and you're pulled into things like in The Crucible, you're pulled into getting people killed. That's an extreme outlook. Most high school girls are not going to get pulled into, but they might get pulled into hurting somebody or not, excluding somebody from the lunch table or making fun of somebody that's on the spectrum. Or maybe there's always that girl in high school that doesn't have great personal hygiene, and we make such fun, or she may have terrible acne, and we make such fun of those girls. Or maybe they just economically don't have the most current phone or the most current thing. And we really do judge people based on that external experience, appearance. And so the Crucible really gets into all of that. And it's very much one of the sub themes is bullying. That's why I think high schoolers should read it. The drama and the accusing makes it very interesting. And that mass hysteria, like that's one of the assignments I gave my kids on that, to research mass hysteria and see how it applied in the story. So Haley, it really is good. All right. Well, I'm 40 minutes in. I've talked way too much. We are closing in on two. Hi, Telegram and Cameron. I want to say hi before I go. We're closing in on 10,000 subscribers. So keep piling on, keep reading, keep subscribing, ring the bell so you know when I come on, because I never know when I'm going to come on. And come to Discord and join the discussion with us. Thank you, Ella, for loving my videos. Cameron, you say kite runner, especially when you add context about it. I'm glad that's helpful. Some people find it really annoying, and I apologize. I can only be me. I've got to be me. I've got to be me. How many of y'all love Randy Rainbow as I bounce all over the place? He cracks me up. But that's the whole idea. I live in songs in my head. We got 15 people on Discord. I know, and I really try and weigh in regularly. Siddharth, I even have it where I get a notification. Let's see if there's anybody in Discord. I was the last one to comment on Discord today. Let's see if anybody's jumping in there. Yeah, I'm still the last comment. So you need to tell me, oh no, there's something new. Oh, Wild Crescent Ruby has appeared. Let me welcome Wild Crescent. Oh no, I've missed a whole lot of comments here. Thank you, Siddharth, for taking care of that. I thought I was caught up. Lee Ambrose, I was going to call you Leanne. Thank you for reading. I'll make sure that, don't worry about it. This is not homework. This is for fun and to help you. So no shame, no should. Do it when you can. Guys, we're barreling another hurricane is like coming right at us this year. And I was talking to one of my school districts, and their school district was attacked with ransomware. I mean, it's like, my gosh, this month is the anniversary. I think it'll be the 4th year of my mother's death. She died from West Nile virus. I mean, I'm not over but the grief is not so painful. That I find it fascinating that my mother died of West Nile virus. What a horrible, what a weird thing to die from. A dang mosquito. I hate mosquitoes because of that. And this is mosquito season. So, it's starting to cool off here, which I love. Let me know how y'all are doing where you are, how's school going. And if you need help with school, reach out. I really do try and help. The best way to contact me is either on Instagram or now Discord, because I do check it every day. So if you need help, let me know. I won't do the work for you, but I will read over what you've got and make suggestions. Shreya, have you read The Help? Watched it. I need to read The Help. My daughters have told me I need to read The Help. I just got so many books I need to read. But I love the movie. I hear the book is much, much better than, as is typical, better than the movie. I need to put my watch on charge because it's sitting here dead as a doornail. I don't know why I have it on. All right. So Haley, read that book too. There's so many, the things you hate, I think is what it's called. I was observing that at one of the schools I went today, and now that's caught my interest. I want to read it. So many books, so little time. Thank you, Sonia. I'm so glad. This AP language or honors, when y'all tell me that just cracks me up because, hello, Eller, Bo Beller, you just joined us. Siddharth, you got to go in there and greet everybody because I cannot text and talk. And now, Sonia, I forgot what I was going to tell you. Oh, AP Lang. Like my channel was geared to kids with language processing disorders, kids on the spectrum, kids with LD of some sort, dyslexia, what have you. And so I teach, I speak very slowly in my classes. I try not to repeat concepts over and over again. Well, I do repeat them, but using the same words, because when you have a language processing disorder, you need to hear the same set of words again and again. So I was teaching, certainly not to AP, not to imply that if you have dyslexia, I have had dyslexic students in honors courses and have gone on to be very successful in college. It has nothing to do with your intellect. It has to do with your language processing. But when I hear that this has helped in AP, it makes me really happy to think of all the levels that this teaching style works for. I read the book first. Oh, you guys got way ahead of me. Grace, I've been wanting to read this for so long. It's one of my favorites, so glad to do it. Shreya, I read the book first and found it much more enjoyable than the movie, no doubt. Yeah, I really do need to get that on my list. Mia Weintraub, I'm listening to your Cry the Beloved Country. I am amazed by who watches that read and from what countries they are. And I had a South African come on and tell me how to correctly pronounce the main character's name. And I'm like, well, way too late because the whole book is done now and I've done it wrong the whole time. I know my daughters hop on and they're like, Mom, you were busy tonight. My kids just laugh at me for my YouTube channel. Sonia, I'm a slow reader, so it's good. Good. I'm glad. That makes me happy to hear. But if it's not, you guys can speed it up like other viewers have said. Have you read any? Jodi Picoult, I have a friend who absolutely loves that author. And I lost so many years reading being a mother. I have 5 kids, and between being pregnant, having toddlers, raising children, I lost a decade of reading. And so there's a lot of authors out there that I just haven't gotten to. And then being a lit teacher, I was always trying to read like the classic literature. So a lot of modern contemporary bestsellers and things like that, Pulp Fiction type things, I just haven't gotten around to. And you can see this bookshelf full of books that I need to get through. So if we lose electricity, I've got books to read, although then you may not have light. All right, I've chattered enough. I should let all of you go do your homework. And remember, subscribe, ring the bell. I don't care if you like. I mean, I care if you like. I do care if you don't like, if you thumbs down it. I always tell y'all that because I never am sure if you don't like the book or you just don't like me. And then that hurts my feelings. So send me a comment, write me on Instagram, Best Tutor Friend, join us on Discord. And I will hop on Discord now to see what people are saying because I see it's doing some stuff. And I will read to you. Oh, Cassie Ware, I was just about to sign off and I don't want to be rude. Hello, I've been watching Huckleberry Finn. Oh, that was such a hard book. And I'm so thankful for you helping me understand the book. Oh, I'm glad to hear that because I'm not sure I think that book should still be read. Shreya, you're welcome. And Siddharth, thanks for the plug. You need to go into sales as an adult. I will read to you next time. Keep reading. See ya.